Hi, we are live here. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, for hearing the call. We've been inviting you on the other levels and realms just before we got on this wonderful HCC Community Education panel. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Lainie Sevante Wulkan. I am so honored to be moderating this panel. Every month I'm honored, and I'm particularly honored this month because I'm so happy to be talking about this topic near and dear to my heart, which really isn't so much a topic, it's more of a lifestyle and an essence and just someone of who I am and everybody here. And for those of you who are looking for that awakening, that spiritual path, we'll be talking about some of these words tonight. And whether you've been doing this for a long time and you come from sort of a spiritual, esoteric, metaphysical background, or you're curious to know what this is and how it can be incorporated into your world, incorporated into even your business, incorporated into how you do things with your family, you are going to learn so much from my esteemed colleagues here tonight that I know that each and every one of you is going to walk away with some new wisdom, some enlightened nuggets, if you will. So let's get into it, because this is a topic and a conversation that we all know that all of us could be speaking to for hours on end. So we're going to do our best to condense it. So first off, I want to thank Camille Leone in the Holistic Chamber of Commerce and Leslie and the entire team at corporate who make this possible. And also who makes this possible is our sponsorship from our members and businesses that are part of our organization. And tonight we're so thrilled that not only is this sponsored by Timothy Stutz from Transformations, but he's also on the panel. So it's my honor to invite you to listen to Timothy. He's going to do a small invocation or a prayer or a calling of one accord. However it is, it's a sort of opening of a gathering of a space like this. So welcome everybody, Timothy Stutz.
Thank you, Lainie. We just bring our hands to our hearts if it's safe. And if it's safe, you could just close your eyes for a moment. And just connect in with that space in your heart, that space of love, that space of pure consciousness. Blending our energies, coming into oneness, coming into wholeness, coming into our divine center. Calling in your specific guides, masters, teachers, and just allowing your breath to gently flood your body with light, with love. And may each of us gain what we need to gain from being here, hear what we need to hear, see what we need to see. And with great love and great respect, I welcome everyone.
So it is. Okay. Well, let me introduce Timothy a little bit further, if I may. Timothy is the founder of the Quantum Energy Academy and has been teaching multiple forms of meditation, Qigong, yoga, Reiki, and other healing modalities for 40 years. He has written over 75 children's stories in the Power Animal Frolics DVD for children and teaches self-development courses for children and families. And that's not all. You're going to hear so much about him. Welcome, Timothy, officially.
Thank you, Lainie.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, we go so far back. So, you know, my spiritual name is Sevante. So if people call me Sevante or Lainie, however you resonate, I guess that'll be maybe one of our topics tonight, too. All right. Next to Timothy, we have Joanna Salerno. Some of you know her as my partner in produce. But tonight, Joanna is going to be talking about all the other amazing things that she does. She is a certified Akashic Record consultant since 2011 and has guided many to finding the answers that they are seeking about life purpose, past lives, soul evolution. We're going to talk about all what that is. She's a certified spiritual director, craniosacral therapist, sound healer, teacher, author, recording artist, and of course, co-creator of the Food Healing Oracle deck, Joanna Salerno. Say hi.
Happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Were you speechless? Or are you in the energy?
I think I was. I was overwhelmed with how many things I do.
Well, that's what makes you the amazing you. All right. Well, a lot of us who are healers tend to take on a lot of modalities, in fact, or practices or teachings. I think we'll talk about that as well. Okay, next we have Christine Strong. Yay, Christine is here. She is the owner of Namaste Essential and Strong. She is a teacher, a mentor, and an energy catalyst. She works with yoga, human design, and the best health jewelry and supplements to empower people to take control of their mind, body, and spirit. Welcome, Christine.
Hi, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to share and to speak with these amazing people, share this energy already. It's going to be exciting tonight.
Yeah, I think you could already feel it. Welcome, everybody. And please, by the way, as we go along, and I'm not done yet introducing Dr. Cheryle Freedman, but we do have a comment section. Let us know who's here. We'll be taking your questions as we go along. Dr. Cheryle Freedman is a licensed clinical social worker with a doctor of psychology in hypnotherapy and counseling. She specializes in beyond quantum healing. Yes, she will explain what that is. A technique working with higher consciousness across all timelines and dimensions to assist her clients in accessing the hidden knowledge in their divine blueprint. Oh, welcome, Cheryle.
Thank you so much for asking me to be here. And I'm very excited also, as Christine said, to be connected with all these wonderful people who do such beautiful energetic practices. And I can't wait to hear about theirs.
Well, we have a lot to talk about tonight. There's so much individuality here, and there's so much unison. And so we do welcome your questions tonight. We will cover this, whether, again, as I said in my intro, this is brand new to you, you've been walking the guru path, or whatever it is. We will hope to achieve something for everyone tonight. So I'm just kind of circle back in what I usually like to start off a little bit more detail on what they do, your backstory, what kind of maybe led you to do what you do and why you do that. To all of us are here to transform people and into their very best. So, but it starts with us having to do that for ourselves before we can do that with others. So Timothy, let's circle back to you and just give a little brief background on the amazing Timothy. Who, by the way, is so amazing. He's up in the middle of the night from Spain. I'll have to throw that in there.
Actually, my spiritual path, actually, I believe God came and found me. I took some Valium for a minor operation one night, and then later that night I took a pain pill and went to sleep and had a dream where I was driving a car around a mountain road, and the car crashed. And as the car crashed, I literally said, I can't control it anymore. I opened my eyes, and literally there was like white light going from my eyes to the ceiling. And I watched him carry my body away and the person that was with me. And that was very strange for me at the time. Closed my eyes, went back to sleep. Next night, took another pain pill, went to bed. Don't remember the dream, but right after I fell asleep, I opened my eyes, and this time there's white light coming out my eyes to the wall across my room, and there's this man in an orange stocking cap and a beard who I had no idea what it was, came in, came out. And I closed my eyes and said, I'm a certified public accountant. This does not make sense. I'm not taking any more pain pills. I don't care how much I hurt. Went back to sleep, and 6 to 9 months later, I literally laid in bed crying for 3 days. And life as I had known it had fallen apart. And at the end of the 3 days, I literally just yelled out to God and said, I've done everything that I've known how to do ever since I was born. And I've prayed. I've said, now I lay me down to sleep every night since my mother taught me. And God, if you exist, I need to find you. And it wasn't shortly after that the crying stopped. I got out of bed, stood in the mirror, and after 3 days of being in bed, totally, I did not get out of bed. Lost a lot of weight and literally saw Christ standing behind me saying, I will remake you in my image. That started my spiritual path.
Thank you.
And one thing led to another.
Well, and that was a while back, and you've helped a lot of people ever since. How about you, Joanna?
Well, you know, in my childhood, I had some mystical experiences, but never put anything together until my brother died, and he had committed suicide. And at that point, I was involved in the Catholic Church and raising my children Catholic. And I decided to join this group. And to make a long story short, my metamorphosis happened from my brother's death to what happened. And I find that trauma sometimes is the catalyst, you know, when you're in deep grief. But I had a Catholic priest, an Irish Catholic priest, that saw something in me that I never saw in myself. And he told me that I was a healer. At the time, I had decided to go to the university to become a spiritual director. That was a 3-year program. And in that 3 years, so many things occurred and happened. Among them, Father Sean, the little Irish Catholic priest, sent me to Barbara Brennan workshop and had an amazing experience there. I would say that was the awakening at that point of me acknowledging that there was something bigger. You know, my life path continued to open up to more and more possibilities. I went on to study Healing Touch with Healing Touch International, became an energy worker along with my spiritual direction, and then my husband died. Another event that was sudden and tragic and opened me up even more. So I don't really, you know, I wish I had an opening another way rather than through grief, but that has been my opening. And then I went to massage school, became a craniosacral therapist, studied with a shaman, sound healer, and it just continues on to this day. I still get those nudges from spirit when there's something that I need to develop further. And one of those things about 10 years ago was the Akashic Records, because I had been tapping in and not really knowing that I was doing it on purpose. And I have found that to be such a gift in my life, along with everything else. I'm certainly blessed, even though it comes with some crosses, right? When you have the responsibility of being a healer, you know, you need to always be doing your work and making sure that you're coming from the highest integrity.
So true. You know, coming along the lines of grief, and we've talked about that in the past, and we've had done on that panels, that grief is absolutely an unlocking of a library of wisdom of being here like no other. So there are some blessings in that if you can look at one. So I'm with you on that. All right, Christine, do you have any backstory you want to share? What makes you do the amazing stuff you do for so many?
Mine actually comes from a history of addiction. And so my story began when I decided to become sober, and I found yoga that way. I had to do AA through different programs. It was mandated. It wasn't something that resonated with me. And what yoga really began my spiritual journey. I really went for more of the easing of the mind, more of the mental peace, as opposed to the physical aspect that I feel like so many people gravitate towards. But then, just like Joanna said, and even you said it too, Lainie, it's like it kind of snowballs from there. Once you feel like you start feeling better and noticing how much better you can feel, I feel like we keep opening up little doors. And so, you know, when I began not using alcohol or drugs anymore, you know, you still have those emotions that we have to deal with that we were suppressing. And so it just started looking at my diet and essential oils and more all natural products and trying to really heal myself in that way. And then just as I've developed my journey, I've found new things, and human design came across when I was really trying to build my business, and I was really trying to market myself, but trying to find a way of ease and flow as opposed to so much of the hustle. I feel like we can have more of a feminine energy in building and use more of the attraction by raising our vibration rather than trying to force so much. And that's what I was doing. I was trying to force to be on this timeline of something, you know. I think maybe catching up from of the things that I've missed, you know, drinking and suppressing, you know, we try to catch up on that timeline. And so human design's been a blessing. It helped me make wiser decisions that align with me. It helps me kind of understand some of the conditioning and where I have some of my talents and where some areas that I need to work on. And so it's just kind of going down different rabbit holes. And as we learn the things that make us feel good, we want to learn a little bit more. At least that's my design. That's who I am. I'm a forever learner, and I will always be that. And so that's the teacher in me, is always the forever student. So
perfect. Well, and of course, the topic tonight is spiritual practices from modern day times. So we will get deeper into the different spiritual practices that you lead with or that you incorporate into your businesses. Cheryle, do you want to share a little bit of your backstory and what led you to do Beyond Quantum Healing?
Sure. That was like way at the end.
Well, in a nutshell.
In a nutshell. Well, Joanna, I appreciated that Joanna brought up that a lot of times it's out of these traumas that you get, you know, connected with spirituality. And I would say I didn't really connect with spirituality that I knew of until probably I was in my late 30s. I had had a traumatic childhood, physical and sexual abuse. I look back now and I think I can't remember a lot of my childhood. It was like not having had a childhood, and I, you know, internalized that and felt very bad and knew I couldn't do it over. It was too late. It's kind of like, okay, damaged goods, too late. And then one day I decided I had more things happen. I got a divorce, I got cancer. And finally one day I was so down, and a doctor had given me a bottle of Xanax. And I looked at it and I said, you know what? I could take this entire bottle right now and just like not have to worry about it anymore. But I had 2 kids that were young teenagers. So I got rid of them, called a friend to come over and stay with me. And I finally said to myself, you know what? Nobody is going to change any of this for you. All these years you've been thinking, if I just get straight A's, if I just do this, if I just do that, it's going to be better. And I finally said, enough. Do what you need to do. And fortunately, after that, I met my now husband and his mom, who actually had her own practice with past life regression. So that was like the catalyst for it. And Beyond Quantum Healing is basically an outgrowth of past life regression. It's all connected.
You know, I thank you for sharing so heartfelt and open, all of you. You know, I have a show, Zeta Global Radio, where I interview celebrities, and I always ask them too, like, when is that moment that you had that awakening? And what is a spiritual awakening? Of course, we'll get to that next. You know, when is that moment that you knew that something has shifted inside, and that what is really happening is the things you can't see? What you're really feeling is more than our body. There's a soul, and that there are other realms and other dimensions, and there's just so much to learn. But there is sort of like when the faucet turns on moment in time. And then there's also moments in times that we have some dark times. We'll talk about that too tonight. What is the dark night of the soul? That gets brought up a lot. But just openly, we keep talking about awakening, and we keep talking about like, what exactly is a spiritual awakening? Does everybody have one? because I want to be able to just share with people if they're wondering. It's the same thing if someone says, how do I know if my kundalini is rising? What is that feeling up my spine? I guess, is there a snake in my body? Like, what is going on? So we're trying to be modern, like we're talking about modern times, but these are topics, and there's new vocabulary in this genre of spirituality, in this lifestyle. So we want to kind of bring that into the fold. So who wants, maybe Timothy will just kind of circle back, but if everyone, and you don't have to always answer, so we're just going to keep it going, but just really like, what is it when we're saying, what is a spiritual awakening? In fact, one of my major spiritual awakenings of my entire life was the night in Guatemala, which I shared with this panel, in the middle of the jungle with the monkeys and the Mayan ceremonies, and it was Timothy there. So if you want to talk about like someone who experienced my spiritual awakening, he was there. So what is a spiritual awakening, but not telling my story entirely?
Yeah, we had been to a shamanic ceremony, and we went back to our rooms, and I was sitting out on the porch and enjoying.
Oh, he's going to tell the story. I just said, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, all the sounds of the jungle and everything, and then I thought I heard somebody calling my name, and Lainie was literally on all fours crawling. I mean, she was in such pain, literally. So spiritual awakenings can come in many different forms. I believe we all have spiritual experiences, and whether we have it in nature, looking in a baby's eyes, we all have those moments where we just connect in and feel at one and feel something deep inside ourselves, that we are part of something. And for me, it's wanting to know the source. Okay, what's the source of that? That's like for me when the spiritual awakening takes place, and wanting to go deeper into the source. And then again, whatever can trigger that. Like I shared that man in the orange with the beard and everything. I didn't know who that was for a long time. And then I found out it was my spiritual master. And one thing led to another. It was just a series of events that connected me with that. And I ended up going to an intensive one time, and I was working I was on the board of directors of a psychological free thing for a community. And one of the board members the night before called me up out of the blue and said, I know your personality and you'll stick with anything no matter how good it is for you or how bad it is for you. So when you're in that program this weekend, if you feel like getting up and walking out, just get up and walk out. And during the first meditation, my legs went totally, they went beyond numb. I actually could not feel my legs. And I remembered television shows about gangrene when you didn't have blood flow, and started worrying about gangrene and if I actually had legs. And I tried to get my arms to go down and feel my legs, and my hands wouldn't move. And I spent the entire meditation trying to get my hand, right hand, left leg, right hand, touch left leg. And I couldn't move. And then my body heated up to I just felt like I was on fire.
Well, I just want to preface sorry, can I just step in for a second?
Yeah.
I just want to preface for the audience that not all spiritual awakenings are me on all fours throwing up in the middle of the jungle, you having that. But does anyone want to, there are lighter ahas, just so we know.
The lightness of that was, I wanted to know, when that experience was over, I wanted to know how a meditation master sitting in India could make that happen to my body. And that's what kept me going after that, is I wanted to know.
Thank you.
So
yeah,
go ahead, Christine.
Well, I just want to say, because in the beginning, when you because Timothy was like, every awakening's different. And I want to kind of say, just because we're talking about modern times, and I feel like the awakening term is being seen like it does have to be this big event, or it's going to be this something that specifically happens, a trauma or something like that. And I feel like maybe there's something that usually will catalytic to start it, maybe to get you on that journey and make you inquire. But I really liked what you said about, like, it could be anything, that looking into the baby's eyes or seeing something. And I read a book called The Awe Effect, the 3-day awe effect. And like, awe is one of the emotions that can really has that power to connect you to source, to really feel like there's a bigger picture out there. You understand, you have that connection, you have that oneness. And it was really amazing to hear that. And I say that because I was one person who would go to all of these things. I would go to these ceremonies and I would do all of these things because I wanted this awakening. And I would sit around and listen to everybody else and their experience. And I'm like, okay, I didn't get anything. I didn't get any visuals. I didn't see anything. You're telling me to go on this journey, and it's black in my head. Like, I'm not seeing anything. And it was getting frustrating to me. And I'm like, really like trying, but yet that's the forcing of it. It's kind of that thing where we have to allow that we're going to understand some of this stuff in divine timing. We're not going to be able to just understand it. We kind of have to experience it. We have to integrate it. We have to kind of let it process through in our everyday life. And that's something that it's come to learn of why we practice and try these different practices or modalities or whatever term you want, because we are all unique. We are all different. Some people are very clairvoyant and they can see things, or some people are more audible and they hear more things. I'm very sensitive to touch. I feel so much in my body, which is why I love yoga. I can feel those sensations. So when I do Reiki or when I have any of that other body energy work done, it's a whole nother enlightening experience for me, as opposed to trying to sit in a guided meditation and get visuals, And so I think our awakening is just like you said, that yearning to know more and to want to know more and to understand that awareness that there is more is my belief.
Oh, you all have so much to say, and we have so many questions to get through. I don't know how we're going to do this in the next 30 minutes. All right. If there's something burning, Joanna or Cheryle, or I'm going to throw other questions at you. Is that okay? We just kind of keep it going?
Yeah, you can
Go ahead. Go for it.
Well, there's, on the one side, there's an awakening. On the other side, there's the dark night of the soul. So that comes up a lot. And yes, we've talked about grief and we've talked about traumas. But if Cheryle or Joanna want to start off, what is the dark night of the soul? That's a term we use. And of course, we're talking about spiritual practices for modern day times. People need to know what that is. Sometimes they come to us healers and want to understand that better. And so if you want to touch on that, you can, and then I want to go around and get a little bit more personal with some of your own businesses, but maybe let's just touch on that general question. Go ahead. Maybe Joanna and then Cheryle.
The dark night of the soul, I think, visits all of us at one point or another, when we're in the cave, the void, where we don't have any way out, or we feel like there's no way out. For me, it's happened a few times. I always have to preface this: whenever there's a dark night and you are in the depths of despair, I always tell my clients, there is a gift waiting for you on the other side. That's all you have to do, is stay with yourself, right? But these dark nights are catalysts for growth. These dark nights are like when the seed gets planted in the deep, dark earth, right? And nothing's happening. You don't see a sprout coming through. You see no life. However, there is life. It's germinating. It's the butterfly. It's the caterpillar in the cocoon waiting to be the butterfly. And there's so many analogies that you can use for that. Echoing? Can you hear? Okay.
I'd let you know.
It's just on my end. But that time, if you can stick with it, if you can find something that helps you get through, whether, reading inspirational text or just maybe sleeping for 3 or 4, whatever works for you, there is something so beautiful that can come after it if you decide. Because we all have a choice, right? And some of us can decide to stay there for a really long time and be resentful and bitter and unforgiving. We have that choice. Or we can realize it for what it is. It's a time of, that when the veil comes down and we can't see any light, but the light does come. And there is so much to look forward to in that. So I try to tell my clients not to avoid that if that's coming, not to resist it, not to shove it down. Pay attention. Pay attention to the promptings that your soul is trying to tell you. And if you hear nothing, that's okay too. Stay with yourself. Stay with that still small center inside of you. And understand that it passes.
I tell everybody, and I know it's so simple, use everything for your upliftment. Because if you can look at that perspective, no matter how grim, how dark it may feel, use everything for your upliftment, because there's a way out, because everything is there to teach you. And Cheryle, do you want to talk about any of that? And maybe we'll just start off with you, in addition to that, talking about what is beyond quantum healing, and if it relates to what we're talking about in these last two questions. And then we can just kind of really, I want to go around and hear what each person does so people can explain what human design is, what is Akashic Records, and oh my God, Timothy, you have so many things that you can be choosing on what you offer. So, but let's start with Cheryle, and if you want to touch on some of these last conversations as well as talking about beyond quantum healing.
Yeah, I love what Joanna said, because you come to a point when you realize if you don't have that dark, you don't appreciate the light. You have to somehow have that. And I think for me, it was a very slow awakening. It wasn't some major thing that happened. It was like all these things built up years and years and years. And then finally, I chose, as Joanna said, to look back at all these things that had happened and said, look at where I am now. What did I get that was positive because of that I would not have had if I had not gone through what I considered the bad thing? So then, you hear that, probably dating myself with this, but you hear, you got to kiss a lot of frogs before you meet that prince, right?
Never heard of that.
I know. Are you too young?
My mother.
But it's kind of like that then when that right person or thing comes along, because you know what you don't want. You know what the things were that you don't want. So as far as beyond quantum healing and how that helps, and most people have actually heard about quantum healing hypnosis technique, which is Dolores Cannon, who was just an amazing, amazing soul. And I would consider her the pioneer of all of this. And Beyond Quantum Healing is actually very, very similar. It's a program that was designed by one of Dolores's assistants, who had assisted her for 6 years, I think. She worked with Dolores in her seminars. But what it is, it's not just past life regression. It's a whole process by where you use hypnosis and relaxation to take the person on this journey. And instead of saying, go to a past life that's connected with this issue, which is what I used to do when I strictly did past life, now I say, go to the time and place, stop at the time and place that is most important for you to look at and examine. And that way it leaves it open. And I have had many people who went not down to the earth to a past life, but went up as an energy being, or went to another planet, or knew they were from another planet and had come to Earth and knew what their purpose was, why they had volunteered to come here and do things. And so usually in the beginning with Beyond Quantum Healing, we go over a past life or an alternate life or another dimensional life. And then after that, I've already talked to the client ahead of time and gotten a list of questions that they want to ask the higher consciousness. And I ask the questions for them. But the amazing thing, and I audio it because many times they call me up and say, oh my God, I don't remember I said that to you. They don't remember because they are so deep. And I ask them what they want to ask the higher consciousness to heal, or questions they want to ask about their path or whatever it is. And it's amazing. And I think then they really believe, because everything is coming from them. I may say, okay, I'd like you to just rest there for a minute now, and I want to talk to the higher consciousness. May I? And when I get yes, and I can tell when I'm talking to the higher consciousness because it starts talking in the third person and says she or he. And I ask the questions the client wanted to ask, and the higher consciousness answers through them. And I think that's what really helps them believe that they were able to connect with something that is greater than them, but also inside them.
Beautiful.
This connection.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, I think I'm going to pop over to Christine and then Timothy and then Joanna. So briefly, beautiful ones. I know you all have so much to say, so much to share. We're trying
How
to
long
get
do
it.
we have?
Oh yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Let's just, all right. Briefly, what is human design, my love?
So human design is like to call a new age astrology. It is taking astrology with the Chinese I Ching, the 9-centered chakras, and the tree of life. And so it's pretty much a blueprint for our energy channels. It gives you like a roadmap with your 9 chakras, and we have certain chakras that we have consistent energy flow. And then we have some chakras that are not as consistent where we get conditioning. And like Cheryle said about, we all get layers of conditioning, trying to unlearn, relearn, all of that kind of stuff. And so using the blueprint, you can kind of look at things that really aren't your sole purpose. And it was something that you were kind of conditioned to by looking at that blueprint. So in a nutshell, you have a little roadmap when you get your chart, and I help you look through your chart.
That's awesome. You're the road guide. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, Timothy, you are a teacher of so many different practices. Would you like to just share maybe one that you would love to just offer to the audience that you really resonate, that really helps people move forward in their life?
I think one of the simplest practices that we can all do is, the ancient seers basically saw this time as us being so busy that we wouldn't have time. And what they recommended was mantra repetition. So you can use any word that is a high vibration: peace, love, God, whatever tradition you follow, Buddha, Christ, lineage mantras, Om Namah Shivaya, Yod-He, Wah-He, I am light. And literally just keep repeating it over and over and over, and it will purify the mind, lead the mind to stillness. And that's the easiest practice that we can all do at all times. We have control of our mind. If my arm wants to go up, I can lift it up, but it doesn't go up on its own. And the mind is the same way. When we can focus it, it'll be quiet when we want it to be quiet. And then we can use its higher aspects. So that's just one practice that I do all the time still. If my mind starts to wander, I bring it back to center with a mantra. And then everything becomes quiet.
Well, I have the honor of interviewing world-renowned Grammy nominee Jonathan Goldman this Saturday, and exactly what you're just saying is the art and of the healing within the sound in the mantra. And it's almost past the words, even though the words have meaning, and of course some of them are biblical, but I've taught people, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Just say it's okay. And by the time you say it 108 times or however, you're not even hearing the word it's okay. You're feeling the vibration moving through your body. And so I just love that, because that's a great practice, whether you're brand new or you've been doing this a very long time. So thank you for that. All right, Miss Joanna, Akashic Records. What is that all about in a nutshell?
Well, the Akashic records are in the upper dimensions. It's talked about in the Bible. It's talked about in all religious texts. In fact, I first discovered the Akashic records when I was just a little girl. I found an Edgar Cayce book in an attic of a house we moved into, and he was channeling from the Akashic records, and I became fascinated by that. So when I realized that when I was in my spiritual practice that I was getting information from this plane, I wanted to discover more. And I became an Akashic Record consultant because it has been the most helpful thing for me. You understand your life purpose. You understand why the things that have happened to you have happened. You understand the bigger picture. So the Akashic Records, the library, and the masters and teachers of the Akashic Records, there is a recording of every thought, every word, every action, every experience that we have ever had as incarnated beings on the earth plane and beyond, because I can enter into the records, and like Cheryle said, somebody might be from another planet and come here to do specific things. The information that you can gather from a reading is so vast that it is, I encourage my clients to record it because they will not remember, and the information just comes in very quickly. But it starts with a pathway prayer. That's how I enter into the records, with a pathway prayer. It's a very sacred time. I encourage my clients to treat it as very sacred time. It's actually the story of their soul through many lifetimes. And I find it very, very beneficial, especially if somebody's stuck. If they're stuck or they're going through major transformation in their life and they don't know why the things that are happening to them have happened, it's a good resource.
Beautiful. All right, so moving along, there's a word or two words that Christine's mentioned it, Cheryle's mentioned it. I know you can all touch on it because everything that you do, all five of us, do is to help someone get on course with their divine blueprint. And so what is a divine blueprint? Where do we go? How do we know we're on our blueprint? I know Christine mentioned it. Cheryle, you want to start us off with that beautiful terminology for people?
Sure. And I do use that divine blueprint. It's interesting because Lainie and Timothy were talking about going to Tikal and having this experience. And what happened for me is that I had to take some archaeology courses in college, and I never liked history. So I take these archaeology courses with archaeologists that have been doing digs at the Mayan ruins. And I totally felt this strong connection with the Mayans. So much that when we went to a lot of the Mayan ruins, I knew so much about them that I would be given my little spiel, and my husband's like, they don't want you doing that here. You don't live in this country. You can't be giving people this information. But I would say, pay attention. This is just a little tip. Pay attention to the things that all of a sudden you connect with and you feel like you resonate with. You don't have to know right then why, but usually you'll find other things that maybe are similar and you will resonate with them. And then eventually it kind of all gets put together and you say, so that makes a lot of sense to me. And now I understand why I'm going down this path. So I'm sure I got off the subject of what you asked, actually.
Well, let's bring it back to the divine blueprint. And, you are a spiritual recording artist on my record label. We did a CD. You talked about how to access the divine blueprint. Maybe we'll leave that information for everybody.
Yeah.
But so really defining, and that's fine. And I'm going to go to Christine next, but it's more about what is who created the blueprint? You know,
Right.
it's like, where do you get this blueprint? You know, what is it? How do you know you're accessing it? How do you know you're on it? So, but
I say it's written on your soul.
There you go.
Because
Perfect.
like the Mayan runes and all those, hieroglyphs you see, this is written in stone on your soul. And once you access that, then you understand what you are supposed to be doing.
Boom. I love it. Perfect. All right, Christine, go for it.
Well, I don't think you got so off the track with that, because
I don't think she did either, but I just was,
right, condensed it back. I do believe that like our blueprint, living like an aligned life, and I feel it's more like that frustration. Like, we all do have a soul's purpose, and we're not meant to just do a 9 to 5 or whatever. And I feel like a lot of people had midlife crisis back in the day because they forced themselves. They weren't listening to the intuition, those small little urges. And so to know if you're on your path or on your blueprint is having those little signs or those little passion points that are like, oh, this is coming quite easily. I'm enjoying this. I'm passionate about it, as opposed to hitting road bump after road bump after road bump, And so I believe it's listening to our soul. We're here to do something special in the world, and it's not just to make money. We're here for a bigger purpose than that.
Beautiful. Yeah. Timothy, and then Joanna.
Yeah, what you just said, Christina, reminded me when I was about 19 years old. I literally knew deep inside of me I was not supposed to get married. I was not supposed to do this, not supposed to do that. But I didn't know what I was supposed to do. And so I followed the married path. I followed something that my mind knew, even though I had a resonance that there was something else. So what you said about just tapping in and constantly listening to that intuition and aligning ourselves with God, with that flow of the universe that is moving everything simultaneously within all of us. So that's what I do right now. Every day, I just want to align with that energy and be one cell in God's divine body that is operating perfectly so that the whole body can operate in divine harmony.
Use everything for your upliftment so you can stay on your divine blueprint. That's what I'm going to say. All right, Joanna, anything you want to add?
Well, I want to speak to the people who have never had an awakening or who don't know anything about the divine blueprint or anything divine. They're living their lives day to day, and sometimes they might tap into the emptiness that they feel. But what I want to reassure them that the soul's life is long. The physical life is short. And so if you don't have an experience this lifetime, you are going to have it another time and another time. And maybe you've had it in the past, but that isn't this lifetime. Some people seek to have these major esoteric experiences, and when they don't happen, they feel less than. How come I don't feel tapped in? How come I don't hear anything? And for this lifetime, their divine blueprint might look totally different because they have some soul growth or lessons that don't even look like it's a spiritual path. But there is, no matter what you're doing or what direction you go in, learning to accept who you are, learning to accept your place in the world may be all that you're here to do at that particular time. And so I always have to calm people down sometimes because they're like, I don't have that. And they feel less than. And I don't want anybody to feel less than. I think that our divine blueprint is unique in each and every lifetime.
And it's all perfect.
And it's perfect.
And we have to trust the timing. And the beautiful Tamara Kiss is in the audience here. And let me see if I can, oh yeah, now's the time for the mouse not to work. See all this energy. Goodness. What does she say? What happens when you resonate with everything? Who wants to answer Tamara?
I can answer for her. I bet that you think you resonate with everything, Tamara. But if you really pay attention, like I was saying before, you are going to find that all of these things you're resonating with have some connection. There is a connection. And maybe you just don't know what that is just yet, but it's all learning. This is Earth School. Learn whatever you can right now, and eventually you're going to see the connection.
Okay, beautiful. She loves us all. We love you too. Are you kidding? In bountiful ways. All right. So one of the, I don't know if it's a hot button, but it's definitely a conversational piece. And I definitely want to throw this in here, but spirituality, religion. So, someone says, I'm not, I'm like Joanna said, she grew up with a great Catholic background, and a lot of us, I grew up with a very Orthodox, actually, in conservative background, Judaism, my heritage. Yet, although I was coming from a Jewish background, I came from an incredible, strong lineage of intuitives. So although we focused on Judaism, my grandmother was the town psychic in Russia, great grandmother back in the day. So some things you inherit, and you just wake up and you just know from a small age that this is the real world. But let's talk about blending, or one is the other, or anyone who wants to just talk on that, because I know that's an important topic, because there's a lot of guilt that comes with this religion and wanting to know that there's more, but it's maybe contradictory to organized or what you grew up believing. So I just think this is important to talk about it, and this is one of the things we mentioned we should. So who wants to go first, and keep it brief if you can?
I'll go first.
All right, Joanna, you jump in there, girl.
There is a doctrine, a dogma that is part of an organized religion that people feel that they have to follow, or they're indoctrinated to follow. Not a horrible thing, although some religions are a little, you have to be careful to get involved in. But when you outgrow that limitation and those containers of that limitation of that particular doctrine and dogma, if you stay on the path, spirituality is more expanded. I look at religion as more limited because it has structure, right? Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with structure, and some people need that. Some people thrive under that kind of structure. And yet there's these other souls like us who have a more expanded view of God, or an expanded view of who we are and how God is within us. And so, there's kind of a pull sometimes for people to do more than going to church on Sundays or Saturdays, or, there's that pull. And when you get that prompting or that pull, I think it's important to pay attention to it. I would never turn anybody around from their faith and how they grew up. But if they're seeking something different, if they're seeking more information, then I always say that's your soul just tapping, just
a little knock,
that maybe you can come out of that limitation and expand your viewpoint that God is within every single thing within us, if you even want to use that word God as a spiritual being. It's just our creator is present in all things. And unfortunately, some religions don't allow us to believe that or experience that.
And there's no judgment. And it's no judgment on if you say God, divine, spirit, creator, supreme being, universe. It doesn't matter. It's whatever speaks to someone as an individual. And the key word I think you said was expansive. I totally agree with that. Anybody else on that conversational piece of spirituality and religion? Cheryl?
Yeah, I've had a conversation about this with some of my clients. You can be both, or you can be one or the other. Joanna explained it very, very nicely. And I too grew up in the Catholic Church like Joanna did. And you would be surprised at when I when I was doing therapy with sexually abused children, my boss, who I absolutely loved, she had started out to become a nun. So she was a real strong, true Catholic girl, right? She said she gave it up because she didn't go with the celibacy thing. But I remember that I had a client who was like 2.5 years old, really young. And I remember sitting in the office with Angela one day doing supervision, and she said, "This kid's been here before." And in a way, it almost at that point shocked me, because I thought, oh, she's this devout Catholic and was going to be a nun. And yet she was able to open up to knowing that she goes, she's an old soul. This kid is an old soul. There's no way she learned all that she knows in this 2.5 years she's been here. So you can be both. It doesn't mean you have to be one or the other, and that you can't be spiritual if you believe in your religion.
Absolutely.
Yes. It's personal.
No, it's not an either or. It's an integration of your elevation.
One of my friends that I did a lot of work with her as she was dealing with cancer, and during her celebration of life after she passed away, she was brought up Catholic, and she touched back in with this Catholic priest who ended up going to India and studying Eastern philosophies. And her celebration of life, he so beautifully blended the esoteric teachings of Catholicism with the East and brought everything together into one. You know, it wasn't religion, it wasn't spirituality. He went to the core of his religion. He went to the core of the Eastern traditions, and he blended and he found the commonalities in them. And that was one of the most beautiful ceremonies that I've ever attended.
Well, I can't speak for every religion.
I agree with that.
Oh, sorry. I have to say, and then Christine, I haven't studied every religion. I've studied a lot, but I can also say that there always is a mysticism or element. Judaism has the Kabbalah. So I just think that there always is an elevated outlook if you look closely. Sorry, Christine, were you going to say something?
I just think that sometimes I think it's our language. I think we just don't have necessarily the right words. And so I think a lot of it is all speaking the same. It's just the language or what we can gravitate to that. I think a lot of times in our spirituality practice, or as we're going through any of these energy shifts or our emotions, it's just the language that we have, and we get so caught up in the terminology as opposed to the general essence of what is really happening, you know?
Beautiful. Well, we only have time for one more question. I know we can go on, and I want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to also know you better. If you have something special you want to offer everybody tonight, or whoever's listening in the future, this does replay in perpetuity. But Timothy, you brought up this really good question. I think it deserves us talking about it. And it's the idea of how to overcome a spiritual plateau. So maybe if you want to lead us off with this, and then we can kind of wrap up after that. But what is it? What are we saying? There's a spiritual plateau. First, we're talking about awakening, and then are we just moving along and suddenly we've stalled, or where are we at with what does that mean exactly?
A spiritual plateau for me is like a plateau in anything, like sports. You know, you practice, and you don't seem to be getting better, and all of a sudden there's a leap at some point. And so a spiritual plateau is you might not have these experiences. You might feel like you're empty, but we are such multidimensional beings. It takes a lot of integration on all of our levels of being. So that might be the spiritual plateau. You're integrating. And when that integration happens, there's going to be a leap. You're going to get to another spot. You know, I closed my eyes one day to meditate in the backyard. And when I opened my eyes, literally everything had gone to light and everything was soft. Nothing had a hard edge. And that was wonderful in the moment. And then it didn't disappear. And I actually did things to try to get rid of it. And then actually heard after I eaten for 7 hours straight trying to get rid of it, that there was nothing I could do to do that. So I just sat and meditated, and suddenly I was in a different spot afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And that stayed there. So anybody that's going through any kind of a plateau, any kind of feeling like they're not working, just keep doing your practices, keep listening to that intuition, like Joanna said. Maybe there's something else you need to do. Maybe it's guiding you somewhere else. But just stay with your practices. Don't give up.
Beautiful. I don't think we're on this planet to stay stuck. We're here. If we're here, we have to continually evolve. That's the classic pulling back the onion layers, right? So we have to pull back a layer because there's another teaching waiting to up-level us on all levels. Joanna, want to add anything? And then Cheryl, Christine.
I would say that it's important not to give up. Life happens on the physical plane. Relationships break apart, or there's troubles in family, or finances are not good. And throughout all of that mundane life, sometimes it's hard to find where spirit is. Where is God speaking to me in this moment when I'm struggling so badly? And it can feel like spirit isn't around, God isn't around, there's nothing to hold on to. And what I say in that moment is just be aware. You can feel your feelings, you can feel anger and frustration, that there is nothing too big that spirit cannot handle. So just, stay with what it is, one foot in front of the other. Look for the light in any place, whether it's a bird that crosses your path, or a butterfly, or you notice a piece of music and you resonate to that music. Wherever that is, even in the midst of lots of pain and struggle, just know that spirit is there, even when it feels like it's not.
I was so sure you were going to say when you're eating that piece of food. I just was so waiting for it.
I'm sorry, I didn't think that.
You're the co-author of the Food Healing Oracle deck. I thought you're like, when you're looking at that mango, feel the joy. It will get you over the plateau.
That's it. You took the words right out of my mouth.
All right, Cheryl, go ahead.
And that's a great point. No matter what we're doing, is just be in the moment and experience what we're doing, whether it's a piece of chocolate, washing dishes, or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah. I've never really used the word plateau with what happens. But the more that I've done the past life regression, which I've been doing for like 25 years, and then now for the last couple of years, adding on this beyond quantum healing, is that many times what will happen is when we ask questions of the higher consciousness, it will let you know if there is something else you need to learn first. It won't just, and I think Joanna's probably had this with the Akashic Records, from what I understand about Akashic Records. If there's something you are not ready to know yet,
they won't.
They're not going to give it to you.
Mm-hmm.
But what I like about the BQH is that they'll actually come out and say, no, she needs to do this first. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm not giving that information right now. That's why I'm not doing that healing for her right now. Mm-hmm. So everything happens at the exact right time. Our little brains can't fit everything that the higher realms know. We can't fit all that near. We burst our brains open. So you have to do it a little at a time.
You know what I compare that to, Cheryl, what you just said, was when I was raising my children. You read in these child raising books. Mm-hmm. If your child asks about sex, only answer the exact question that they ask you. Exactly. Don't embellish, just tell them what they ask you, because what they ask you is what they're actually ready to hear, right? It's the same when I enter the records. The masters and teachers aren't going to tell you something that you are not going to be ready to understand and hear. And so I think that's a beautiful piece, because sometimes things are all about divine timing.
Right. It's just, I've actually had higher consciousness, which I was calling spirit at the time, give me some real smart aleck answers. They can be very funny, as Joanna probably knows, but yeah. If you ask the wrong thing.
That's one of my prayers when I go to bed every night. Let me know what I need to know.
There you go.
Very
All right,
good.
well, what I need to let you know is that we have to wrap up. And so let's see. Christine, can we hear you? I know we can't see you.
You can't see me. I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. So we're pretty much closing this beautiful container. And what I'd like everyone to do at this point is just think about if there's something special, beautiful offering of love of any way regarding your businesses that you want to offer everyone tonight and who's listening. We also, if you're an HEC member, if you're not, please consider it. It's an amazing organization. And you will, if you're a member, getting an email from all of the beautiful panelists here tonight with special offers as well. But why don't we go ahead and start with you, Christine. If you have something you'd like to share, and just let us know what that is, and just a closing thought.
Absolutely. I want to offer 25% off to anybody who wants to do a reading. We'll pull your chart and do a 75-minute human design reading, along with a follow-up 2 weeks later, just to see if you are integrating any of your practices and any aha moments that come along with that. And really, I just wanted to kind of end off with the fact of giving yourself some grace and kind of with those plateaus and to feel the feelings. I feel like sometimes the spirituality movement in this modern time is like, oh, just love and light, and it's all rainbows. And we do need to feel the darkness to know the light, and so give yourself grace and let yourself feel what you need to feel to transmute and to go on to the next level.
Beautiful. I do feel like you're like this mighty oracle speaking through this computer system that's permeating love and light to everybody. All right, Cheryl, how about you?
Okay, well, I think this is something that is going to be given to the participants, because we put our offers in with Leslie, was it? But for the rest of June, July, and August, I am offering $100 off a past life regression, BQH, multidimensional, whatever you want to call it, session, which are 3+ hours long. Plus there's some prep work we do ahead of time. So they're normally $250. I'm going to do them for $100 off, which would be $150. But no one has to worry about that being so expensive and they're not sure they want to just pay to do it. I'm perfectly happy if someone wants to email me, have me give them a call. We can discuss exactly what the session entails. I can give them more information, and then they can decide if it's something they really want to do.
Great. And then any
just kind of what everybody else has said too. Yeah, don't beat up on yourself. You are exactly where you are supposed to be at this point in time. Sometimes it seems like you're not, and it's taking too long to get where you want to be, but there is a reason you are where you are right now, and eventually you will see that.
Beautiful. Timothy.
Yeah, I guess the link is there, like everybody said, but what I'm starting is a mastermind group, and it's once a week to support people in their spiritual journeys and to support them with what's alive in their bodies right now. And that's an offer for my lifetime. I'm doing it weekly for my lifetime. So everybody will have an opportunity to be in a field of energy that supports them. They can share what's going on. We can do some meditation, some Shaktipat meditation every week to get centered. And I would say, like we started, bring your hands to your heart often during the day. Breathe, connect in with that stillness, and then move back out from that point.
Beautiful. Thank you. All right, Miss Joanna.
so much wisdom here. I just so appreciate you all. I'm offering $25 off an Akashic record reading, which is an hour reading. In addition to that, I always offer my clients a debriefing, a 15 to 20 minute debriefing. What did the record say? What else can we dive into? How did that hit you, kind of thing?
Mhm.
And if there's anything that was not completely understood. So I'm offering that complimentary. That is usually an additional $50 value. And what I have to say to everybody, and I'm going to mirror what these very wise people already said, is to just be gentle with yourself. You know, that voice that we have that is so critical, our self-critic, can really get us in a lot of trouble. So forgive yourself often. Love yourself as much as you possibly can, and just be as gentle as you would a newborn baby, and treat yourself as such.
Wonderful.
Mm.
Well, I'd like to just throw something in there. I know we didn't talk about it too much, joking aside about the mango, which is our joy card, but Joanna and I were very blessed to come together and bring forward spiritual wisdom from Mother Earth to create the Food Healing Oracle deck. And we have a very, very, very special 2-day certification course that we have coming up, actually. It's our second to the last of the year. Oh, he's got one in Spain. It is a certification course of the Food Healing Oracle deck, and it is an incredible spiritual immersion to see spirit through food and to understand intuitively the why and how food affects you emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically. And we want to give you a whopping $150 off that certification. We hope you take advantage of it. There's a few spots left. It's July 10th and 11th, and it's 2 full days. And you truly will not look at food the same way again. And I know we didn't really touch on it tonight, but everything we do here, which we said used for your upliftment, includes fortifying the body temple with high vibrational foods that create the frequency to get you out of a plateau, to awaken your soul, to everything that we talked about tonight. Food is a cornerstone to that. So it would do you the best justice in all of your journeys to consider how to eat for spiritual ascension. So if you want to know more about that, please go to foodhealingdeck.com, reach out to me or to Joanna. Ladies and gents, oh my goodness, I love you all. I'm so grateful we had this time together. And for all of you who are watching, please let us know how you thought of this panel, if we can help you in any way at all. And remember, use anything you heard tonight for your upliftment. Thank you all for being here. Amen. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much, Lainie.
Everyone, thank